Welcome to Selling the Storm on ENF Trade TV. I'm your host Trapezoidal Chatterjee, and today we are joined by Nick Spicer, the CEO and founder of Your Eco Construction from United Kingdom. Hi Nick, welcome to the show.
Yeah, hi. So we've been running since 2016, so the best part of a decade. I've been involved in renewables since 2011, so some time now, nearing on 15 years. And prior to that, I spent my time as an army officer in the British Army.
Thanks for the intro, Nick. Every company faces this one defining project, one that tests every ounce of skill, teamwork and resilience. For your company, can you walk us through that particular project and what made it such a challenge?
So the project was located up in Lincolnshire. It was a 1.1 megawatt in its entirety, albeit that also saw about 500 panels, which were installed about over a decade ago, also being removed as part of the installation. So an element of removal and then reinstatement of a whole new upgraded system. So I think one of the key challenges was the AC infrastructure and the point of connection, connecting into multiple distribution boards across the site. And then the second one, working really on complex high rooftops, but working around an array of skylights, and the intricacies that's required for the stringing of the system, along with the physical layout of the panels being installed.
Aside from the technical requirements, Nick, could you walk us through your approach to energy storage and mounting? Especially considering that this was an industrial rooftop project.
The site has a very high base load and continued base load, so storage wasn't initially included as part of the scope. But one of the key things was making sure that it implied or complied really with, insurance and fire safety requirements. So we used a solar edge system as we do as standard as one of their 5 Platinum Enterprise partners in the UK, which really gives that sort of best-in-class fire protection, but also gives rapid DC shutdown and module level isolation, a key feature to provide the safety within this project. But as part of that, I guess the other requirements was to make sure that the system could be maintained throughout its 30-year forecast lifespan, so making sure that man-safe wires and access ladders were in situ to enable the ongoing O&M. Along with also considering the detailed points of connection across these 3 buildings and how they fed into the whole electrical architecture of the building and the site.
Was the system roof mounted or ballasted, and what mounting system did you use?
It was all roof mounted, all on trapezoidal metal sheets, so all using trapezoidal fixing systems across those roofs. No, it was a penetrative setup, so penetrating into the crowns of the roof sheets. We worked extensively with our mounting system partner Sunfixings on this project, who bring a great level of engineering expertise based in the Cotswold, and who supported us throughout from the design and the engineering through to supporting on the installation.
Okay, so that's how you made sure that the roof could support the weight and still maintain good drainage.
Yeah, absolutely. We do a full roof condition report beforehand, along with a fire risk assessment as standard on our rooftops, plus also bringing a structural engineer to do the structural calculations, which then we're working to with our solar installation. So all of those factors were taken care of and looked at many months in advance of us even being on site, as part really of that development phase.
And in the first 30 or 60 days, how did the live results compare to your pre-installation modeling? Were there any surprises on the performance ratio?
I'm pleased to report no. So far, so good. All is looking very favourable. So, yeah, no complaints. We've had touch wood. All the products are online. All the technology is doing what it should be doing, and it's performing as expected.
Though you make it sound like a piece of cake, I am sure no project is without hurdles. What was the toughest technical challenge your team faced, and how did you overcome it?
The toughest technical challenge, I think, was the electrical connection to the point of connection work. So we spent a lot of time looking at how we did that and how we got the communication right, because also there was an export limitation in sight. So we had about, I think it was about 900 kilowatts of AC capacity on our inverters. So we oversized it by about 115% on the DC, but we had an export limit of 500 kilowatts. So really coming down to almost 50% levels of the export. albeit slightly above that. And so what we had to do is at 3 points of connection, we had to extend the chambers of the panel boards to make new connection points for our own distribution boards because of the size of them, but also make sure we fed all the monitoring back to a centralized point to make sure that we were getting the relevant requirements on data and connection to make sure that we were complying with the grid and the district network operators' export limitations. So a lot of challenges around that electrical infrastructure on this project, and really how we synchronized it, and then through to the shutdown of factories as well.
That actually leads to my next question. How did local regulations, load limits, and utility requirements influence your design choices and the final system layout?
Yeah, so we initially designed using half-hourly data, trying to look at what was the most appropriate site, maximising the area available, considering such a high baseload demand of the site and its high uptime of a consistent baseload. So we modelled off the half-hourly data using the Solar Edge Designer tool, which gave us what we needed. We submitted the application to the district network operator, and initially their connection costs were very high for the upgrade works to enable all 900 kilowatts to be connected on the AC side. And actually, when we looked at the modelling, the difference between 900 kilowatts and 500 kilowatts export limitation was very negligible in terms of actually the loss of export simply because of the high consumption. So it wasn't deemed sensible to pay the significant upgrade cost when we could export limit it. So it created a bit more of a technical challenge by putting in the G100 limitation side, but ultimately it didn't harm the performance, and in fact it gave more favourable financial and economic returns than perhaps connecting the full capacity of export.
Moving beyond technical design, construction can bring its own set of challenges. So what was the most difficult part of the construction phase?
I think the construction part was challenging because it was a live site and it was a manufacturing site, but also an office site. The scaffold requirement was significant, so we had two types of scaffolding that was needed. On the two industrial buildings, the scaffold was accessed by hacky staircases, and it was probably about 10 levels of hacky staircases going up the side of the building, and then scaffolding up on the perimeter at roof level, along with scaffolding around all of the skylights to make sure that we'd mitigated any fall from height and full compliance on a CDM perspective, given the nature of the fragile roofs. All of which we had to deconflict the works with the operational nature, both of the office and the manufacturing site. So making sure that we had a clear transport plan and making sure that routes for ingress and egress were clear, and also demarcation in place to make sure that everyone was working in a safe manner, but those still accessing their place of work were also able to do so with clarity being afforded, but also for themselves a safe manner without the fall from debris or any risk associated to the working at height operations we were conducting.
Supply chains can add another layer of complexity. Did you face any such disruptions or material shortages during this project? And if so, how do you normally mitigate this kind of risks?
We were quite lucky because we delivered it over the summer and the weather was very pleasant. So actually we had long daylight hours and no weather disruptions on the site, which made it a real recipe for success.
That's great to hear. But what if the weather isn't so kind? Say in harsh weather conditions, how do you handle installations or site work when there is heavy snow around?
We don't get too many extensive periods of snow in the UK. And what I will say, though, about snow as a positive, and in particular in the UK, is a good dump of snow once a year or however often really does give the chance for that snow to freeze on the panels and really give them a good, almost deep clean. So I do see a positive to a good bit of snow from almost an O&M and a free clean. But when it comes to snow and installing, the two don't really go down well. But for us, by nature of it probably not being an extensive period of time, we're not interested in taking any risks that aren't required. So as I said, we'll stand down the team and we'll go sledging instead.
You mentioned removing legacy modules during this project. How did you handle the reuse or recycling process? And were there any components reintegrated into the new system?
No, so there were two key things. We left the mounting system in place, so we didn't want to remove the actual mounting and the trapezoidal fixings because we didn't want to create any risk from a water ingress perspective to the roof. We took the panels off though, and the panels went through a recycling process. We've been using the likes of PV Sol recently. PV Cycle, not PV Sol, who provide the reporting on the recycling of the modules that we've taken to them. I do think it's an area where it needs increased improvement, and we're going to see increased focus of the years to come. And I think people trying to understand, the full recyclable chain for panels as they sit at the moment. I have a horrible feeling in the industry that odd modules here or there that might come off roofs might not being recycled or disposed of it in the best way possible. And I think that's something that's really got to change on that side.
Let's talk process. From roofing, electrical works to inspections and commissioning, these projects require precision. What systems or tools help keep your team aligned and on schedule?
Yeah, we've applied a lot of focus to our systems and processes and how we deliver them. And in fact, it was only last week that we had all of our site managers in working with our operations team for a workshop to work through them. We have 4 core departments. All of those run through a process of a platform called Monday.com. And then we use a platform called Simple, which is in effect a document and data management tool that we use on site for our site managers to capture all the daily reporting, from signing in, toolbox talks, from first inspections on equipment and plant to scaffold inspections to daily reporting and progress. We've got really clear updates and visibility down to the panel level, nuts and bolts, torque tightening, testing, testing of the strings as to what's happening and it being recorded throughout. And then we use a tool called Slack for real-time communications across the business on project channels to make sure we're capturing this information.
As we wrap up, let's talk about leadership. What do you think sets your company apart, both in terms of project and overall approach? And what key decisions make that difference?
We have 3 key things, I guess, which I suppose came to mind just thinking about it. We talk a lot about our military approach, and we take a lot of that learning. We look at something, the way the military conducts itself, called mission command. So empowering everyone else around us, telling us the outcome we want to achieve, and giving us the limits that we can't go past. The other sort of value we talk about across the business is what we call Be More Buffalo, and it comes from North America and the effects they have in a storm. And ultimately, when a storm comes forward, the buffalo puts its head down and goes through the storm, because the earlier and sooner you get into it, the better state and the quicker you come out of it. So I suppose that's the second one. And then the third one for us is what we call, Kaizenize, and it's that whole Kaizen methodology and culture. And it's what my co-founder and wife Amanda focuses on heavily, who came to us from a sort of biotech background previously in the corporate world, focusing and engaging people on Kaizenize, looking all around for how we can make continuous and continual improvement, challenging people to challenge the status quo and the norm, and then put more effective solutions in place. So for us, I think mission command in empowering people, being more buffalo, and hugging the agony. And then lastly, really, is Kaizenize and, continued professional development. I think one of the key takeaways is, for our own perspective, is looking much more into the electrical point of connection early on and trying to understand the electrical routing. I think installing panels on roofs in some ways is not the easy part, but you need to get it right, and there's a lot that goes into it. But once you get the methodology and the process and the sign off and the quality control, it can become almost a repetition of previous activities to some degree or another. But actually the electrical connections are always different, and so I think understanding how you're going to connect it in is always the key point. So I think a lot of our focus, and that Kaizenize again, is really focused on the continuous improvement to our methodology for electrical connections and making sure those are identified and worked through very early on.
How would you describe your journey in the solar industry so far? And what are your vision or predictions for the near future?
What do they call it? The solar coaster. I think there's some incredible highs, there's some incredible lows. It never seems to be that constant. It always seems to be oscillating from one extreme to the other. Would I have it any other way? Part of me would like to say no, but obviously the answer to that would be yes. Do I think the market's more mature now? Yes. I think my hopes and aspirations for the years to come, we really focus a lot on advocacy, and I really want to see greater standards across the sector. The barriers to entry are still too low. The standards and the awareness and the knowledge and the understanding still isn't at a high enough level. I think we need to see greater deployment of solar, in particular focus on rooftop solar and carports rather than extensive ground-mounted solar, I would suggest. And I think let's focus on how we break down the barriers to deploy more solar across the rooftops to really give, impactful clean energy on what is currently latent opportunity on the roof space above us.
Thanks so much, Nick, for joining us and sharing your insights on selling the storm.
Pleasure, not at all. It's been great.
The storm never ends, but every challenge makes you stronger. Thanks for watching Selling the Storm only on ENF3 TV.